Welcome everyone, a guy trying here, letting you know that tumultuous times are upon us in Altered TCG. Tumult Championships for the Trial by Frost season are currently going on all over the world, so be sure to check the events tab on alter.gg to see if any are happening near you. But for today, I'm here to let you know some things you should expect to encounter on your journey to claim Kuroakami. So let's get into it. Let's first start off with what you can win from your local Tumult Championships. First place will receive an exclusive Tumult Championship playmat featuring the alternate art of Sinisa Dedicated Ensign for the Trial by Frost season and gain a point towards the faction they played bonding with Kuroakami. Each player that makes it to the top 8 will receive a set of foil Trial by Frost adventure cards made thicker than usual to be more durable, and are currently the only available foil versions of these cards. And for the final set of official prizes for the championships, the highest ranking player of each faction will receive an oversized scout card, featuring the rare alternate arts you can pull from seasonal promo packs. So feel free to represent your favorite faction. I'm going to go over which hero in each faction I think you're most likely to see at your championship. Ordis players have been the villains of the Altered community since release. While Waru and his taxes were much to blame in Beyond the Gates for Ordis' metagame supremacy, even then Sigismar was looming right behind. But what makes Sigismar so powerful? His true strength comes in the simplicity of his hero power. He creates a recruit every day in his hero expedition. Nothing to write home about. Basically the same as Teija, Navenka, or Basir in the grand scheme of things, right? Wrong. Those hero powers are all conditional in that they require you to, at the very least, have played a character. With nothing holding him back, Sigismar can easily threaten both expeditions each day without much effort. Even if he took an entire turn off to play the Monolith or Grand Endeavor to accrue value throughout the rest of the game, he's still requiring his opponent to answer a little 1/1/1 in the hero expedition. Add the fact that it feels awful to remove a token, and the limited access there is to multi-target removal means opponents often can't easily do anything against Sigismar. Combine this with Ordis' impressive card pool, with cards like Baba Yaga and Ordis Attorney for card draw, Tiny Jail and Teamwork Training for removal, and Monolith Legate and Ordis Spy for sabotage, and you have a force to be reckoned with during these tumultuous times. When going up against Sigismar, it's important to not commit too much too soon throughout the day. His low cost curve allows him to play lots of smaller units, while still staying open to play around your plays. If you're able to force them to overcommit and lose card advantage, they can struggle in the late game, but it's easier said than done. Consistency is the name of the game for Sigismar, and he'll most likely be the hero to beat, but that doesn't mean he's unstoppable. In contrast to Sigismar, our other top hero, Afanas, has the strongest hero power in the game just based on pure text alone, but can struggle with consistency. There is no limit to the number of times his ability can boost each turn, and the boost can be played on any of his characters, allowing him to stack them precisely to win expeditions. The true cost of this power, though, is in deck construction. Afanas needs a strong mix of both characters and spells to function effectively, which can make them more draw dependent. Most of the key cards for Afanas work to mitigate the spell-to-character ratio of the deck. Magical Training and Conjuring Seal draw more cards to give you more options. Cards like Helping Hand and Flamel allow Afanas to recur cards that he needs to keep his engine going. Helping Hand will keep around key characters so that he has targets for his spells, and Flamel's ability to return spells to hand is so sought after that most Afanas players will dedicate their unique slots to similar effects. And of course, access to Yzmir's suite of control options will let him hinder any opponent and help take the early game. Which brings us to the most talked about card in the game currently, Small Step Giant Leap. This card does nothing until it wins Afanas the game. This spell says it moves target expedition forward, but what it really does is makes it so Afanas never actually has to win more expeditions than his opponent to win the game. Any other hero without Small Step Giant Leap must at some point go up on advancements over their opponent, but Small Step allows the player to trade evenly in expeditions and then close the game out with the spell. When going against Afanas, you'll want to target any sabotage and removal at his recursion pieces first to put him on the back foot. Removing characters is also a priority to flood Afanas with spells and force him to find more in order to actually combat expeditions. Spells like Moth to a Flame and Field Reinforcements will help Afanas by generating a token, but other than that, his weak point is his characters. Afanas can often have trouble competing in both expeditions due to his lower character count, so you can sometimes pick up easy advancements by playing in his off lane. Just remember, with Small Step Giant Leap, you will have to go on the offensive at some point and not just trade. Teijas will often try to build board presences to overwhelm their opponent, and focuses more on her own game plan than her opponent's. Teija looks to maximize the value of her boost each turn by giving it to a character that will gain Anchored, effectively allowing her to double the value from the boost. Teija will then try to give her characters Anchored again, primarily through the support ability of cards like Muna Caregiver, Muna Druid, and Rare So. These cards get to her reserve through playing them, but more often than not, she's hoping to resupply them via Aloe Vera, Rare Spindle Harvester, and Floral Tent. Once this engine is assembled, Teija can amass a giant wall of stats that will never leave the expeditions. The Spindle Muna Bastion will provide tough to all of her characters to hinder any pesky spells that might seek to unseat her characters. While Muna has access to some removal pieces, Lost in the Woods and Cloth Cocoon both have restrictions on when you can target a character with them, and Mana Reaping and Mana Eruption both put you behind on mana. There is Beauty Sleep that allows Teija to get a tempo advancement, but the threat will still come back next turn. When facing off against a Teija, step back and respond to her tempo. Her ability causes her to play very openly, often having to play her power cards early on in the day to get the most from her boost. You can use this against her, finding ways to target her weak expeditions or force her to overcommit. Early removal gets double value against any character she anchors, since it was going to stick around for another turn, and any instance of sleep negates the anchor as well. Sleep and anchor are both lost during night, so there is no negative to sleeping an opponent's anchored character. If Teija's engine is online, there can be turns you might not really be able to combat. When you can, sabotage or exhaust her support cards to disrupt her engine, and she'll have a hard time rebuilding. And remember, while the Spindle gives tough to Teija's characters, it does not have tough itself, so it's a good target for permanent removal. Another starter deck hero you might run into is none other than the poster boy for Eat Me Energy Bars, Kojo. Like Sigismar, Kojo's ability is simply passive value without committing anything. The doubled stat line is very strong in the early game, but the fact that it's every other day keeps Kojo from really putting on the pressure, and later in the game there isn't that much difference between a 1-1-1 and a 2-2-2. A Kojo will effectively have to utilize the difference between their on and off turns to win the game. Bravos is full of stat stick characters like Haven Warrior and Tomoe Gozen to beat the opponent down, and Bravos players are looking to keep the pressure on. Bravos relies on key cards like Rare Mighty Djinn and Haven Sarengar to keep up with card advantage, or else they will burn out quickly. While he has some access to removal, mainly Intimidation and Mana Eruption, often Kojo's main strategy will just be to block any opposing characters with his own that has larger stats. He also has access to fully empowered Haven Bravos Bastion, but has a much harder time refilling his reserve to get huge value off of it. Removal is the name of the game against a Kojo, whether it be sending a card to reserve or sabotaging one that's already there. Once a Kojo is reduced to top decking, it's rough for them to come back. You'll want to play around their power turns. When Buddha is out, they are hoping to double advance, so you'll want to bait them into overcommitting in an expedition so you can get the other. Try to save your power turns for when you don't have to go up against Buddha. Fen is the avatar of card advantage in the game of Altered. Her ability means that you don't have control over what you mana, but you are getting an additional resupply after the first day. This allows her to play more wastefully with her cards, so support abilities are going to be her bread and butter. She can use cards like Martingale and Twinkle Twinkle as free mana through their supports, or go an anchor route with Kodama and the Hatter. Ouroboros, Inkcaster, and Hather will allow her to recur cards, and she can use Anansi or Magping Hoarder as high stat cards to take over expeditions. The great strength of Fen is the true versatility of each of her turns. Because there are so many ways to use each of the cards she has, she can adapt to the situation of the day. She has access to Sabotage with Danuki and Tinkerbell, Card Draw with Magical Training and Haven Sarengar, and Adaptable Disruption in Acapella Training, Cloth Cocoon, and Off You Go. She can even run Small Step Giant Leap if she's willing to give up the rare slot. Because of Fen's versatility, you'll want to identify what type of deck you are playing against early. If you see the Anchor package, she's most likely trying to play a more offensive playstyle, while Magical Training and Off You Go would indicate a more reactive playstyle. A lot of her power comes from proper utilization of the reserve, so exhausting or sabotaging cards there can put her in an awkward position. She has built-in card advantage, so you'll have to overcome that. However, once you get to the end game, Fen cannot opt out of putting a card into mana, so if you do, you can draw 2 cards while she is only drawing and resupplying 1. Because she's in Lyra, a lot of her cards have mismatched stats, so she can easily give up advancements if you can find the right hole in her armor. And worst comes to worst, you can always hope she just gets in her own way. Because she can't choose what she puts into mana, She has to hope that the perfect answer she could have top-decked is not going directly into the void that is the mana zone. Axiom is in a weird position. After the suspension of Haven Bravo's Bastion, a lot of players left the faction behind. While this didn't affect Sierra to the same magnitude as Trace or Subash, the entire faction saw a huge drop in player base. Now that Haven has received an erratum, it seems some are testing out the faction again. While I believe Trace is the strongest hero in Axiom currently, having strong card advantage, I think players might be hesitant to bring them to the Tumult Championships, considering the deck was MIA for a while. I think Sierra will be the most brought Axiom hero, but not the best performing one. If you go up against a Sierra, take out their landmarks, as most seem to overcommit to synergies and become too reliant on them. If you are bringing Axiom to one of these tournaments, you've probably engineered a full homebrew deck that you can pilot better than any advice I could give you. I think that there are many interesting cards and styles to be found in Axiom that I can't wait for the community to find now that more people are playing the faction again. And with that, you should have some idea of the biggest threats you might see as you try to claim Kuroakami for your faction. Each local scene will be different, so this is not to say you won't see other heroes. This is just a brief overview of the top meta as a whole and what you should be prepared to face. You'll know your local scene better than I do, so you might have to adjust accordingly. By the time this video goes out, a good number of the championships have likely happened. If yours already happened, let me know if any of this rang true. But at the end of the day, these tournaments are about supporting and celebrating your local altered scene. So above all else, remember to have fun in these tumultuous times. Thanks everyone for watching. I hope you found this helpful in some way. If you did, feel free to like and subscribe. But if you made it this far, just know that I'm happy you stayed with me this long. This video is obviously a bit later than I wanted. I was originally planning on making deck guides for each of these heroes, and it got morphed into this amalgamation of thoughts. I like the overall meta feel of it though, and I think I'd like to do one for future Tumult Championships as well. Let me know if you liked this, or if there's anything you think I could improve on. That's all for now, but I hope we see each other again.